Good evening, everyone. I'll call to order the Marin Water Board meeting of October 15th, 2024. Terry, if we could have roll call, please. Roll call vote. Roll call.
Director Jed Smith.
Here.
Director Larry Russell.
Here.
Vice President Matt Sampson.
Here.
Director Monty Schmidt.
Here.
And President Ranjiv Kush.
Here.
Thank you.
And we'll be convening to a closed session. Terry, to discuss litigation. Terry, do we, sorry. If we could just start with the agenda then. Do we have any board member questions on the agenda? Any public comments on the agenda?
No, not on the agenda.
A motion, we adopt the agenda.
Second.
Vote please, Terry.
Director Smith.
Aye.
Director Russell.
Aye.
Vice President Sampson.
Yes.
Director Schmidt.
Aye.
And President Kush.
Aye. Okay, now we'll be convening to closed session to discuss litigation. And Terry, just checking to see if we have any public comments on the closed session item.
Yes, we do have someone, I believe either Andy or Jen Levine, that would like to speak regarding the closed session. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. This is Andrew Levine. You all able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay, just quickly, I appreciate the hard work the district has put in on the recreation management plan over the past 4 years. The new board members have supported an excellent and inclusive process, which was led very well by Sean Horn. As you are well aware, a handful of people have decided their personal selfish interests are more important than everyone else's. And they're shamefully using unfounded environmental claims to exclude others from their mountain. Instead of collaboration, they're using legal wrangling to try to subvert the public process. During this public process, they've repeatedly refused to meet with other stakeholder groups to try to come to mutually agreeable solutions. Furthermore, the small group of leaders at MCL took this action unilaterally without asking or even notifying their members to approve these subversive acts, which will cost MCL and Marin Water a large amount of money and waste a lot of time. MCL and this same lawyer have tried similar tactics with all of your sister agencies whenever trails have been opened to bikes. They delay the process, but have lost every time. These groups need to put down their weapons and join all the other stakeholders in collaborative solutions. Please continue your efforts to share the watershed among all users, not just the entitled few. And thanks again for your efforts. I and my fellow cyclists appreciate it greatly.
Thank you. There are no further speakers.
Okay, then we will convene to closed session. Thank you, Jed.
Yeah.
Okay, hello, everyone. We adjourned our closed session at about 6:30 with no actionable items to report. So then moving along with our agenda, Terry, do we have public comments on items that are not in the agenda?
We have several. The first three, Phil Sauter, Carol Dosini, and Barbara Reedy.
Good evening. A doctor's appointment maybe missed the last operations committee meeting, but let me watch the recording and spend time with the data presented. Starting with AMI, if we now use 25 million gallons per day, the 14% savings from non-AMI customers took us from 29 million gallons a day to 25 million. The extra 3% savings from AMI customers would have taken us to 24 million. An extra million gallons a day savings from AMI is terrific, but it's the 4 million gallons a day from all customers, including non-AMI customers, that's the big news. Where did that 4 to 5 million gallons a day come from? We could start by looking at summer versus winter water use. Did the 4 million gallons a day come throughout the year or from lower summer use? Was it sudden change or did it happen gradually? The data we have can tell us. Looking at Corte Madera, the extra 7.25% savings from AMI versus non-AMI users would have taken us from 29 million to 23 million gallons per day, or 6 million gallons per day in savings instead of 4 million gallons per day. This shows a bigger contribution from AMI, but again, it's the 4 million gallons a day savings from non-AMI customers that deserves some extra study. There's a story here, and it would be good to know what it is. Craig has plans for additional study. One helpful analysis would be to look at monthly usage numbers. Did our 10 to 18% savings show up in every month of the year, or did the savings show up primarily in the summer months? What was the difference in seasonal peaks between AMI and non-AMI customers? And what can these 453 customers in Corte Madera tell us about their changes in water use? Ben has said over the years that conservation is neither predictable nor reliable, but here we have 7 years worth of data where we can track rebound on the customer level and see if there are some customers who rebound and some who maintain their lower use habits. We've heard about the difficulty of reaching heavy users and finding a compelling story to change their behavior. But our AMI users, and especially the Corte Madera users, can tell us specifically what helped change their behaviors. We don't need to wait for years until AMI is rolled out. We have useful data right now. And with Craig's continued enthusiasm, I'm sure we can figure out what messages have already worked for customers who use 30% of our water and are likely to work for those who use the remaining 70%. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready? Good evening. I speak as a member of an increasingly concerned community that lives and works in Hicks Valley on the borders of the Sulihule Reservoir. Sometime in the next 2 months, MMWD staff and consultants will make a recommendation to the board to approve one preferred alternative project for local storage augmentation. 2 of 3 projects will be deselected and 1 will continue to be studied as the most feasible alternative. The 3 choices: raise the dam at Kent, raise the dam at Sulihule, or build a new reservoir at Upper Nicasio. In advance of this decision, those of us with homes and businesses that border on the Sulihule Reservoir wish to voice our vigorous opposition to plans to expand it. Expanding Sulihule will flood hundreds of acres of farmland of local interest, will destroy untold natural resources, and will displace numerous residents because their homes fall within the expanded boundaries. We understand that this upcoming decision is going to be based on all the facts. And I wish also to voice my ongoing concern about the way in which the cost data presented for the Sulihule project is incomplete and misleading. This project appears feasible on paper, but if you look at the details, realistically, it is too costly and too destructive. Here is one example of many. To talk about Sulihule as if it were just another of MMWD's reservoirs creates the impression that Sulihule is a fully functional part of the system. This is not the case. Sulihule is a so-called orphan reservoir built in great haste in response to the '76 drought to provide, if needed, a 5,000 acre-foot safety net. In 1979, the directors approved a dam and created a reservoir that depends on pumping to distribute its water, but they built a pump station with no dedicated power source. You can only use the water if you haul in expensive diesel generators. Otherwise, the water is inaccessible. For more examples, please visit our website at savehicksvalley.org. As those of us who live out in Hicks Valley know, the electric power in this region is not reliable. There are frequent outages. Cost analyses of any project involving Sulihule must include true and realistic costs for installing a dedicated power source for the pump system, along with costs for backup generators when the power goes out. Don't make the same mistake made by your predecessors in 1979. Don't choose Sulihule in haste because it looks feasible on paper, when in reality it is not workable. The real costs of expanding Sulihule, human, environmental, as well as monetary, make not choosing it a very defensible decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. I am also a member of the community living on the edges of Sulihule Reservoir. At a recent presentation that I attended, 2 things struck me, and they have stuck with me in the days and the weeks that have followed. And the first thing is that 5 directors, just 5, or whoever is elected next, that's you or them. 5 are the people who hold the future of our community in their hands. 5 people, that's it. And since you, the 5, are entrusted with our survival, I must trust you. I must trust you to be truly careful, thoughtful, and deliberate in your decision-making. It's my job to protect my community. But oddly, at the same time, it is also my job to help you. I have to help you be able to defend a decision to remove the Suli Hule project from your portfolio of options. I have to help you make that a defensible decision. As other members of our community have repeatedly pointed out, the costs of this project have been seriously underestimated. The second fact that sticks with me is this: 40% of the potable water provided to users of Marin water goes to landscaping. There's another number that kind of blew my mind, 40%. So as you travel through this process of narrowing options, please continue your strong focus on developing and implementing recycled water programs for use in landscaping. From where I stand, and from where all the Hicks Valley community stands, it would be wrong. It would be terribly, terribly wrong and indefensible to destroy our homes, our businesses, and a lot of really beautiful land in West Marin, just so people can water their yards. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reedy. Next are John Dulcini, Maria Gisletta, and 1402. Go ahead, John Dulcini.
Thank you, and hello, board members. My name is John Dulcini. I wanted to first thank you for allowing me to speak at the last meeting and again at this one. A few more thoughts related to the potential Suli Hule project. As you're aware, there has been widespread public concern regarding mercury levels. MMWD has stated that existing mercury levels are within acceptable drinking water ranges. However, if the raised water level will potentially inundate mercury mines that are currently dry, it should be concluded that there is not enough information to determine if the mercury levels will, at a future state, be within acceptable ranges. Also, if fish will have increased mercury levels, consideration should be given to the variety of wildlife that eat the fish, for example, the local bald eagles. If this is unknown, more investigation and testing should be performed before pursuing this as a feasible alternative. Public apprehension alone should be a major consideration when evaluating this topic. Lastly, I thought it would be helpful to restate the main points that I brought up during the last meeting in a more summarized format. Number one, inaccurate and incomplete cost estimates should not be relied upon to make such significant and impactful decisions. Number two, to properly compare project cost alternatives, the true cradle to grave life cycle cost of the project should be taken into account, which should include upfront capital cost as well as operation and maintenance costs. This is especially important given the electrical cost to run pumps. Number three, if the inundation map did not account for a 100-year storm event, that would mean that the existing map is undersized, which would require additional mitigative measures and additional cost to be accounted for, especially if Hicks Valley Road, Lincoln School, and neighboring properties are also flooded. I hope this information was thought-provoking and helpful, and I thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Gisletta, and then 1402, please.
Thank you for the board for hearing my comments. My name is Maria Gisletta. I am from Hicks Valley and I represent a portion of the Barboni family and I'm representing the 4th, 5th, and 6th generations with my comments. Hicks Valley and Nicasio ranchers are facing flooding of our agricultural lands, structures, businesses, access roads, and homes for our second round of potential eminent domain so that water infrastructure may or may not be met. Per your board's presentation and May 2023 Strategic Water Supply Assessment Report, the Sula Hula on average only spills 8,500 acre feet per year, far less than the 20,000 acre feet goal of increased storage. The likelihood is that the rainfall alone will not keep her banks full, especially considering the vast shallow waters that are proposed, which will be lost to evapotranspiration and infiltration. Marin Agricultural Land Trust, MALT, holds conservation agreements with both the Dalsini and Barboni ranches with a cumulative 3,600 acres assigned, quote, the right to preserve and protect the agricultural, open space, natural resource, and scenic values of the property in perpetuity. These lands were deemed to, quote, possess significant agricultural, open space, natural resource, and scenic values of great importance to the owner, the people of Marin County, and the people of the state of California. Respectively, the Upper Nicasio proposal would be detrimental to the MALT conservation easement agreements with both the Muskaisac and the Evan ranches, which accumulative 1,500 acres of protected land. Per Section H of our Barboni Malt Agricultural Conservation Easement, the protection of the property is consistent with the state of California's public policy favoring the preservation of agricultural lands and their resources. California Government Section Code 51220 of the Williamson Act states, among other findings as to the significant public benefit of preserving agricultural lands, quote, that the preservation of the maximum amount of limited supply of agricultural land is necessary to the conservation of the state's economic resources and is necessary not only to the maintenance of agricultural economy of the state, but also for the assurance of adequate, healthful, and nutritious food for the future residents of this state and nation. Agricultural lands have a definite public value as open space, and quote, the discouragement of premature and unnecessary conversion of agricultural land to urban use is a matter of public interest. Significant public investment by federal, state, and local sources have been made to protect these lands in perpetuity. I urge you, no, I beg you, not to destroy these protected lands. Thank you.
Thank you. 1402, then Marilyn Price.
James Holmes Larkspur. In evaluating the Sulhuli project, the board must be guided by what would be the greatest good for the greatest number at the lowest practicable cost, as the board and the district have been throughout their history. The district cannot subordinate the interests of the broad mass of ratepayers who need increased reliable supply to the interests of a small group of landowners, however much we may sympathize with those landowners' situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Marilyn Price and then Tony.
Yeah, just a quick comment to thank Bill for looking into all the data from Craig's analysis and for the comments about conservation from the people speaking about the Sulhuli project. Picking up on Bill's comment about waiting for years until AMI is rolled out, it is my opinion we don't have years to wait for customers to change their behavior and use less of many things, including water for sure. Here's the title of one of the articles that appeared in the past several days, but similar articles are appearing more and more. 25 of 35 vital signs for Earth have reached record extremes, scientists warn. Without immediate action, scientists warn that these extremes could threaten life on Earth. So I want to thank you for continuing to factor in the importance of conservation in your plans going forward.
Thank you. And Tony, please.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just think about the storage for the future, and I wonder what the reasons are for that increased storage. One of the speakers spoke earlier about landscaping and how 40% of that is towards landscape needs. But I also think about agriculture. So is that towards, say, cows or chickens or any other type of farming. So I think about, is that increased storage for those needs? Well, and I also think about this new Measure J that's happening in Sonoma County. That's a threat to decreasing agriculture and herds. And we know that's a potential threat for Marin County if that were to be passed in Sonoma County. So I think about that, and I think about if that were to be passed in the future in Marin County, that would drop the herd or potential number of animals that would need this excess amount of water. So if that passes, we wouldn't even need that excess storage potentially. And I also think about malt. So this generation, malt has fortunately saved a lot of these landowners from these family ranches by giving these funds to buy out families. And so my fear is the next generation is not going to have the same funding to buy out their siblings from these ranches. So what's going to happen is they're going to have to unfortunately sell their stake in these ranches and not sustain these family generational ranches. And they're going to be bought out by these Silicon Valley tech people. And then with that said, these guys aren't educated enough to run these ranches out here with these cattle, with these herds, with the population of animals that you would need to drink this water and would have storage. So I don't know. I just think about the future and I think about those two things and what the real reason is for increasing the storage of this Sewell Dam. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no further speakers.
Thanks, Terry, and thanks as always to the public for coming and providing really thoughtful insights. I just want to confirm on behalf of the board that everybody is heard. All inputs are considered. We'll move on now to directors and general managers announcements. Monty, I'll start with you.
I have nothing tonight.
Matt?
Thank you. I was hoping to get really excited about our first prescribed burn of the fall, but Mother Nature bats last, and so it's going to be postponed. We have some critical fire weather coming in, so it's good to hit pause on that, but I'm really excited to see what we have coming planned for that. The only other announcement I have is last Tuesday, the 8th, we got to spend the day out on Lagunitas Creek with the watershed crews, evaluating the implementation of the phase 1 project from Lagunitas Creek's rehabilitation process. And it was such an interesting, neat day to see all the work being done out there. And I really can't wait to see a before and after picture back and forth. And the staff actually had some drone footage of through the creek area, so it should be pretty neat. And what a great project, what a great team. A big, kudos to Sean, Eric, Jonathan, and then JP, the whole crew to wrap it all up, into our federal and state partners who have helped fund it. Just a great day to be out there and celebrate a lot of the progress we're doing. And also just to reinforce to the public that this district has a big part in rehabilitation, has a big part in protection of our environment, and everything we're doing, we're studying like crazy. And this is a good example of our entire ethos, especially in light of some recent, events going on that are questioning our ability to really study it. But this just goes to prove that this is in our blood. This is what we do. So great project. Great to see it. Looking forward to potential phase 2.
Thanks, Matt. Sorry to miss out on that. Jed.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to join Matt at the Lagunitas Creek watershed enhancement event. And it was a remarkable showing of our team and their care for the watershed, their care for the endangered species that we are stewards of, and the ability to partner with local, state, and federal agencies in such a deep and meaningful way over decades. What a terrific event! And Matt, thank you for your great words. They're articulate and thoughtful, and Carl and team, really well done. Tangentially related, I was fortunate enough to join a Point Blue birdathon that we were able to identify in a 24-hour period 133 species, which was a shocking, wonderful event. We've identified more in the past, but as you said, Matt, this organization and these folks around this table care a lot about about our habitat and being good stewards of this land. Lastly, I was lucky enough to go to the West Point Inn, which is on our land. It's a 120-year-old institution and a really, really beautiful place, looking out over the Marin Headlands, right at the top of Mount Tam, and looking down over the city and the bay. And we are lucky to be able to have that great long-standing relationship and to be stewards of that institution as well. So that's my report.
I thought you were going to take me next time. Thanks, Jed. Larry? You know,
Yeah, I've got a couple things. Last week, I attended the Water Environment Federation meeting in New Orleans. It was a very effective meeting, quite large, and there was a lot of discussion about PFAs and about reclaimed water and the impacts on where we're going with reclaimed water and RO and those types of things. The other thing I did on Sunday was attend Mike McGuire's event at Chili Feed in Windsor, which was quite an interesting event. I've known Mike for a long time, and he's quite a character, to say the least. And he was at his best at this event. So he's obviously unhappy about being termed out, but he's looking forward to running for insurance commissioner. So that's where he's headed.
nice update. Thank you, Larry. Nothing from me, so we'll move on to general manager's announcements.
Nothing this evening.
Okay, thanks, Ben. We do not have any board committee reports. There were no committee meetings held since our last meeting on October 1st, so we'll move to onto our consent calendar, which this time includes 5 items. I want to run through those quickly. The first is approval of the minutes from our last board meeting on October 1st. The second is our general manager's report for September 2024. Third is approval of a second amendment to district lease number 61 with VB Run LLC for upgrades to their existing telecommunications equipment at the Lucas Valley Tank site, and authorization for our general manager to execute the amendment. Number 4 is adoption of resolutions that will change the district's CalPERS contribution rate paid for health insurance premiums to the minimum amount required under the Public Employees Medical and Hospital Care Act, or PEMCA, and allow the district to administer the additional benefit amounts that are due to district employees. Last, we have an authorization for a general manager to recruit and hire 1 field supervisor in the operations division. Terry, do we have any public comments on items in the consent calendar?
There are none.
Then do we have a motion, please, to approve our consent calendar?
So moved.
Second. Roll call vote, please, Terry.
Director Smith.
Aye.
Director Russell.
Aye.
Vice President Sampson.
Yes.
Director Schmidt.
Aye.
And President Kush.
Aye.
Thank you.
We'll move then to our regular agenda, beginning with item 9A, which will cover California Department of Water Resources grant resolutions. Welcome, JP and Alex.
Can I make just a quick comment?
Yeah.
I passed by the Castagna tank, and we need to tell Sonoma Water, they did a great job. It is now green, and it basically fades into the hill instead of that white that jumped out of the hill. It looks 1,000 times better than it did.
Good evening, board members. I'm Alex, the engineering director. I'm here this evening with JP, who's going to be providing an update to this grant application. So, JP? That one works.
Hi, directors. Good evening. Tonight, this is an action item to approve 2 grant resolutions for the Department of Water Resources. The district continues to track and apply for state and federal grant funding opportunities that align with the district's programs and projects. We've identified the Department of Water Resources Dam Safety and Climate Resilience Grant Program as an opportunity for various infrastructure improvement projects, and we'll be responding to this grant solicitation with 2 separate grant applications. The district will submit a grant proposal to advance spillway repairs that were identified in the district's spillway assessment. The spillway repair project application will be requesting up to $2 million for repair work at various dams. The district will also be submitting a grant proposal to replace the valves and actuators at Phoenix and Lagunitas dams. The valve and actuator project application will be requesting up to $2 million as well to replace the valves and the actuators that are from the 1960s at Phoenix and Lagunitas dams. Staff is requesting that the Board of Directors consider approving the grant resolutions for the DWR, dam safety, and climate resilience grant proposals and authorize the general manager to sign grant agreements and other documents necessary so that we can accept for acceptance and amendments of the grant awards on behalf of the district.
Okay, thank you, JP. Director's questions, discussion items. Larry, you want to start things off? Jed?
Very supportive. Thank you.
Matt?
Will these numbers, will they cover the entire cost of the projects?
Yes, that's the entirety of the projects for both of these grant applications.
Gotcha. And no match. This is 100% funding.
We have a consultant working on these applications, and we have very little information
Okay.
about it.
No,
but I
understood.
can find out.
Great. That's okay. Thank you, though.
Just one question, the valves that would be put in, would they allow us to have the ability to release water at whatever levels we would decide to, if any? I know right now part of the issue, at least with one of the valves, is that it leaks and it's old, probably both of them. Just curious about the design that we're seeking funding for.
Yeah, the valves can be operated and left partially open if that's the desire. But they're meant to replace the leaking valves and the actuators. Actually, the hydraulic actuators open and close the valves remotely.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And then just, can you just tell us this opportunity for the submission of these proposals? It seems like it's quite new, or this is a new program focused on the maintenance of dams that predate a certain period.
That's how I understand it. And it's due October 21st,
Right.
which is why we're bringing it to you today.
So, yeah, so it's a great opportunity that's come up from our Department of Water Resources. And I was really excited to see that we jumped on it. So kudos for that. Terry, do we have any public comments on this item?
There are none.
Okay, then with that, I just want to note that again, as JP mentioned, this is an approval item. We're asked to approve 2 grant resolutions to support the submittal of the grant applications for both the proposed spillway repair project and the replacement of the valves and actuators at Phoenix and Lagunitas dams. So if we have a motion then.
So moved.
Second.
Great. Then a vote, please, Terry.
Director Smith?
Public comment.
Oh, did I leave out? I left out public?
No.
No, I think I did. I did do that.
Okay.
I usually leave it out.
Sorry.
Larry,
I
this
didn't hear it.
time I did not.
Director Smith?
Aye.
Director, did you have a comment on this? Oh,
Or not on this, it's.
okay. All right. No worries. Okay. Director Russell?
Aye.
Vice President Sampson?
Yes.
Director Schmidt?
Yes.
And President Kush?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, JP. Thank you, Alex.
One more quick question. What do you think the odds are?
Answer that.
Any idea how many applications there'll be?
We'll find that out once they award the,
Is this like Prop 1 money that,
no.
no? Well, good luck.
Once it's awarded, we'll find out how many people applied. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, moving on then to item 9B, which is the progress update on our 2024 annual strategic work plan. And Ben, I think you're going to be leading this one.
Yeah, this item's mine. Do want to note that I realize this is a bit hot off the press. I think the board will find this is a very familiar document. We've developed it together and reviewed it a number of times. Tonight, it's a bit of a review, but intended really to focus on some changes in this document since the last time we've reviewed it, kind of on the status of these efforts. So we have 5 goals, and I'll go through this. I can pause after each goal if there's questions or questions come up. Just go ahead and we'll address them either way. So the first goal and the objective one is reduce potable water use. We've completed the water efficiency master plan, the updated incentives, ongoing efficiency campaign strategies. We talk about those frequently. Water loss on C, we have a update to the board October 18th on that project that we've initiated that'll include some technologies we're recommending to pilot. You'll be hearing more about that, I believe, in Operations Committee. We're also participating in a WRF residential end use study, so that will be interesting. We've updated the board on E on AMI status, and that's moving along pretty aggressively. We updated the gray water ordinance policy after some efforts, and we're holding off on that last item on the aligning with the state, because we'll wait till the state comes out with the new direction there. So that's objective one. Objective two is augmenting existing supply, water efficiency. We've talked about, and in process, the Sulahuly to Nicasio pipeline that's in design. The design for Sulahuly electrification is on hold, pending the outcome of the assessment of the Sulahuly project, as that could inundate the pump station, and that would need to be incorporated depending how that plays out. We've made progress on the stream release automation. We're currently testing the control strategy and calibrating it, and then looking to go next to Walker Creek on our automation. We also have an item here of emergency supply augmentation that is noted to begin in Q4. So we'll be bringing that to the board sometime in Q4 or soon thereafter. The roadmap, medium and long-term projects. The first one is select preferred alternative for conveyance, begin 30% design. So as you can see, and you've seen all of these, the intent we're doing is keeping the original date. So it's very transparent and clear. And that currently is tentatively for Q1 2025. And I'll kind of talk about the overall strategy, the schedule in a minute. Similar on local storage, the same date, Q1 2025. We are planning to bring, which you may recall, we've brought the updated costs on the different strategies for water supply. In December, we're going to bring the updated, including the remaining piece on supply. So we'll have all the current costs, the updated costs, and then we'll move into the decision-making process over January, February timeframe is the current plan. And we did the feasibility analysis we've brought to the board for Petaluma River. So objective 3, preserve, enhance existing partnerships. North Bay water reuse, we continue to be active there, and our San Quentin recycled water project is currently in their phase 2 project list, and they're looking for, they're still packaging it, working through CEQA and planning to put in for a grant. So we'll be part of that. The Sonoma Water Agreement renewal, staff is now meeting monthly, and we did just last week receive an initial draft from Sonoma Water. So we have now made progress, and we'll be updating the board once we take a good look at it. The ongoing meetings with contractors, as well as the word of funding, we'll provide an update November 6th on our overall grant program, and that'll be incorporated in there. So objective 4, provide high quality water to customers. reservoir management plan, and that's really designed to look at, we've talked about ways to potentially mitigate some taste and odor late seasons that we have, not with a strap-on ozone that may be one day in the future for us, but looking how we manage the reservoirs as a system to see if there's things we can do from a control standpoint, like aerate it or pull water at different depths, that kind of thing, to reduce the likelihood for taste and odor concerns. Water treatment improvements. This is a very important project we've just touched on, but moving away to a liquid instead of a gas for ammonia addition for chloramines, and that pilot study is underway. And then we did get TNI accreditation for the lab. So that's all the goal 1 items.
Ben, maybe I'll take up your suggestion that we stop after every goal and open it up for any comments or questions. Any board member thoughts?
You know, I know we can't do a midstream change in trajectory, but with the concentration and effort now and the importance of the Nicasio spillway raise, it'd be good to at least include those updates as we move forward in this, because that now is for me a high ranking project as we move forward.
Anything else?
Yeah, I think I always felt like the emergency plan analysis beginning in Q4 was a little bit of a soft date, but you know, if it doesn't rain and we have La Nina is predicted now, and we're right on the edge of maybe being dry or normal, it's hard to tell. But if it doesn't rain, then, you know, this winter, this is going to be a really, really big top of mind issue, and as much ahead of the game as we possibly can. I don't think we're asking for you to come up with a plan in Q4, but as much thought process as you can. You know, it was only 3 years ago that we spent $10 million on pipes to go across the bridge because we didn't really have a plan at that time. So I encourage you to not put that off. Thank you.
And I support that planning as well, so we have something working.
Yeah, Ben, I know as Matt said, the Nicasio spillway raise was not something that was part of the strategic water supply roadmap. That opportunity, which is an important one, has clearly shifted some of our other priorities. But, you know, certainly the big supply improvement projects are sliding in along the timeline. Just what are your feelings about the delays and whether are gonna, you know, are we on track to hit the new deadlines in early 25?
Yeah, so first on Nicasio, I just want to reflect in response that staff appreciates the high priority on that project, and we are making good headway, and we'll be updating the board on an ongoing basis on that. In terms of the other projects, yeah, these large water supply projects, as you understand and you're starting to see, are inherently complex and do take some time. I do feel good about the work we've done and the position we're in terms of the decision-making in this coming year, the first quarter of this coming year. And I'm hopeful and relatively confident that we'll get through that process and have a selected project or projects to move forward this coming year.
Great. Yeah. I mean, the complexity is well understood. There are a lot of issues come into play that, you know, we maybe didn't anticipate. But at the same time, you know, we raised rates. We've brought in a lot of additional revenue to partially support these investments. And I think it's important not to you know, take our foot off the gas, I guess, on these. Well, I think then we'll move on to goal number 2.
So goal number 2 on this first page 6, so A through H, there's a lot of kind of red and shifts that have occurred. we talked about Nicasio being one of two notable unplanned projects that really hit engineering. Fairfax Manor is another, and they're both, right, inherently high priority, time sensitive, and significant resources. So this was an area, and I'll explain why we felt it was a reasonable place to look to shift. So essentially, all of these items here, A through H, are designed to feed into the development of a long-term CIP that would inform the next rate setting process, which is about FY 27, I guess. So we do feel that pushing these a little, letting them slide, we aren't really losing ground for that goal, given the timing, what we're trying to do. That said, it's a lot of work, and we're going to have some serious discussions as we develop this plan for the coming year of how we're going to get this work done. But because we do want to meet the interests of the board to really take a look at, as we're just thinking about capital planning, what does the big picture long-term look like as we develop our 5 and 10-year plan? So I can go through all these, but I think I've generally captured that these are all sliding a bit, and we'll have really, my plan is a serious discussion about these as we develop next year's work plan. Goal objective 2, capital planning. Continue to identify grant funding opportunities, and I noted November 6th we'll be giving an update, and bond funding that's captured in an upcoming goal 4 we'll touch on. Objective 3, capital project delivery. First one is dealing with engineering resources, and we had a good discussion with the board and got authority to I think strategically and thoughtfully augment, leverage the engineering staff and lightly augment it to tackle this increase in the capital program we have. We did get our on-call engineering contracts in place, and paving restoration, it is now set for November 15th. That this has been another one that's been delayed a bit, but I feel confident we'll be meeting that date. Objective 4, operation and maintenance. Standard operating procedures, SOPs, operations embraces, and updated 7 SOPs and created 11 new ones. So that was really a big task. It's kind of in the weeds a bit, but critical activity to have documentation on important activities or those that you don't do very often. Learning through industry association involvement, where I'm quite pleased that as we've talked about, we do have a pipe tapping team that's gotten some energy, gets folks to conferences, and where Darren and his staff have been very active, sending teams of staff to different sister agencies, East Bay Mud, Contra Costa. We even went to Valley of the Moon recently, North Marin, talking about different activities, different processes, and really learning and talking to the crews. I mean, they really do appreciate that interaction with the broader community. So I think this is a small issue, but one that I believe is paying long-term dividends. Similarly, efficiency improvements with equipment. This is sort of a follow-on of the recent rate increase that the board passed that sort of now is kind of allowing us to look for new equipment where we can be more efficient and effective, and it's playing out in a whole number of ways and is quite appreciated from staff that we have this opportunity. Objective 5, energy planning. So carbon neutrality, understanding that there was quite a bit of interest in that. We'll begin that by Q4. We're currently planning to do that as noted. The microturbine technology, we did bring that to the board in July. And as you recall, there was just nothing really ripe for our system and the return on investment. We also, at that same discussion, we did talk about renewable power generally, and the one action item that is currently happening is evaluating solar at our large clear wells at San Geronimo. Not a huge footprint, but it's there and it's an opportunity to grab some additional solar. So we'll be bringing back how that looks at some point next year. And then I believe the last objective in this goal, emergency response readiness, emergency response plan update. I am planning to bring an update on emergency response generally to the board in December and share where we are, the opportunities we have to improve our current state, and the activities and initiatives ahead for us. We have tabletop exercises are scheduled for November 7th, similar to the dam exercise. We monthly attend countywide emergency response meetings in their Office of Emergency Management. We're developing FEMA compliant contracts, so we're ready in the event of some sort of natural disaster or similar. And we don't have anything yet to report on looking at our single points of failure. But again, I think that will fall into this overall look at our capital system and where to invest going forward as we develop our capital planning. So I'll pause here if there's any comments or questions.
Any board member comments?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say maybe kind of leading off, Ben, with where you kind of ended the previous objective or the previous goal, and it's like it's that concern that we've got so much coming online that for a passionate issue for me all along has been the care and maintenance and updating of our infrastructure, and we've done something really, I think, important over the past couple of years to really identify bending the curve and getting us to the point where we're getting ahead of our maintenance needs. And, I think in addition to all the other things that we're trying to take on, I really worry that we've got sufficient resources that these reds are going to keep red, or there might be more of them given all the other objectives that we're trying to get done. And so I know that it's always challenging to deal with a bubble, so to speak, perhaps of a lot of things coming on in over a short number of years. But I encourage you to work with staff, obviously, and figure out some creative ways, because I'm really worried that this is a lot, and it's all things that we need to do, and it is asking a lot, but we've got a lot to do. So encourage thought about how to really address that, because I think it's the demand is only growing.
Matt, Larry, anything else? Cool. Just one little item, Ben, on the dam review. I think I noted in the report, that staff report, that we did just complete a dam safety inspection.
Yes.
Okay, so.
And right, we were found, as we have been for quite some time, that all the dams are in safe operating condition with some minor enhancements.
Good to confirm that. Thanks. So we can move on then.
Okay, so we're at goal 3, which is generally around the watershed. Lagunitas Creek restoration is moving forward well, as we've been updating the board. We are looking at updating the Lagunitas Creek Stewardship Plan. That will be, an effort with stakeholders. We don't have anything to report. That's designed to be complete in Q4. The PIT program, the tags, we're adding 2 new antennas. We don't have anything to report. I do think the board may be aware, with our gravel augmentation that we're doing in Lagunitas Creek, we're actually going to be gluing some of these tags to gravel to be able to monitor the progression, not just of fish, but of gravel and understand the replenishment rate. So that's kind of an exciting addition to our program here.
How big are the tags?
What's that?
How big?
Are the tags? I think there's something like this. Generally, they get shot into the fish. So they'll come up with some way, I suppose, to epoxy them to the gravel.
Yeah, they kind of change the dynamics of the hydraulics. huh?
Yeah, right. It's a good point.
It's a pit tag. It's really small.
Yeah, you want to know it's true. The
It's like a
one I
large
was,
grain of sand.
the one I was identifying, and I thought as I said it, that most of it's injected into the fish. So the tag itself is, it's pretty small.
I mean,
So.
it shifts the weight, and so yes, the transport is a little.
Changes the
But it's still.
gravel, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although it's a good estimate.
Then we also have technical expertise to regional restoration projects. It's not uncommon. We get pinged. The board did support participation in a Redwood Creek effort. We were supporting the county. They didn't get the grant they wanted, so that project, they put that on hold for now. Kind of too bad in a way. It was really a nice conceptual, but a big idea. Objective 2, watershed resiliency to wildfire. A lot of work, as you're well aware. Public safety partnerships, we're very active regionally, and the Rangers have completed the annual training and ongoing coordination and training with the county for this work. The BIFUP, this year's work, as we've talked to the board, has been completed. Strategic partnerships, One TAM and others, and this is really focused on prescribed burns. And as we heard this week, that one got delayed, but we are hopeful in the next few months we really get some good work done. Workforce development, really been successful. We got a $500,000 grant for CCNB crew. A new program with the Fire Foundry program, brought in support, as well as AmeriCorps Grizzly, and we're working, as we always do, with California Conservation Corps to bring in resources. So a lot of resources that are really helping the work of the watershed. Firefighting equipment, we'll purchase that for our additional ranger staff. So objective 3 is stewardship. Annual biological monitoring that was completed, and we've shared with the board the result of that. Regional partnerships, we updated the One TAM MOU and reviewed that with the board. Regional restoration opportunities, we are working on this Golden Gate Biosphere Network, and there's a climate vulnerability study. So we're supporting that broad effort, and we'll be sharing in the next 2 to 3 months what that final report looks like. Stewardship programs, a lot of training going on, and we've had those for staff to build capacity for volunteers. So we needed to train our staff so then they could manage these volunteer crews that we're really have launched a monthly volunteer trail maintenance program. Or trail, I think. National resources interpretation, we have initiated planning and design work on the first set of kiosk signs. And we'll be bringing that to the board, and that's intended to kind of create a new, updated, refreshed way we communicate, and quarterly hikes. Objective 4 is recreation. Our rec management plan, as you're aware, the pilot is on hold pending the outcome of the litigation. Speaking of that, we're estimating, maybe best case is about $500,000 to support the litigation efforts, and obviously that's unplanned. So we're working with the watershed team to figure out where that money is going to come from. right now. Azalea Hill Restoration Project, a lot of work going on. I think we will be complete by Q4, and that really will be a nice accomplishment and really celebratory. Maybe we'll actually think about an event for that. And we developed some self-guided tours and outreach materials, and that appears to be well received. In terms of watershed facilities, road and trail management plan, we are planning to pick that up to start looking at priority projects and updating the plan generally. It may be to some extent influenced by the litigation timing that I mentioned. And priority list of visitor amenities. We got a lot of information and opportunities, and it's a long list, and we'll be bringing to the board kind of priorities and opportunities to enhance the visitor experience. B is yeah, it's kind of a big idea. We haven't really jumped into any of these, but these are the considerations, recognizing that we have space on the watershed, where there are opportunities, whether it's an interpretive center that we think about with partners and maybe grant funding, housing for our temporary workforce. So we'll be talking to the board more about these items in the coming few months. So I'll pause for goal 3 if there's any comments or questions.
Anything?
Thanks for your willingness to try to make the Redwood Creek happen. That was obviously not a top charge of ours, but you know, we gave it a shot, and that's an important habitat in the creek that's being drained. And we do relate to it with our water tank that fulfills the water needs at Muirwood. So thanks personally for your effort to try to make that happen on behalf of that small watershed.
Ben, maybe just one, you noted that the costs that we'll have to bear for the litigation regarding our pilot program for bicycle trail access will be, I just realized will be coming out of our watershed budget.
Yeah, that's the current thinking, to look at the watershed budget and kind of figure out. Yeah.
Right. So that could have some potential impacts on other important activities that we're trying to accomplish in the watershed. That's too bad.
That's interesting. That's ironic. The trying to protect the watershed. In order to protect the watershed, we're going to have to spend money that's going to make it harder for us to protect it.
Too bad.
Okay, goal 4, financial stability. We do have planned for November. We're going to bring to the board a discussion on some remaining dollars from this last fiscal year and where the opportunities are to park some of that, replenish reserves. There's some other ideas, and we'll be talking to the board about that in November. It's not a lot of money, as you can imagine, but it largely is from some vacancies that we had over the year. So it's an opportunity for us. Long-term CIP, and that's kind of what I mentioned, but our 2-year CIP is under development and to be coincident with the next 2-year budget cycle. We'll be working on this coming year. And nothing to update yet on non-rate revenue, but again, as part of the budget update, we do plan to review our non-rate revenue fees, leases, parking passes, that kind of thing. Objective 2, fair, equitable, proportional rates. Connection fee study. Next week's FAC meeting. Finance admin will be updating the board on that effort. The low income program, we're coordinating with Community Action Marin on kind of strengthening the collaboration and an understanding of our program so they can help spread the word and really help our outreach to those that could benefit from our program. Objective 3, cost-effective business processes. We've talked to the board about SAP. The current plan, I believe, as you're aware, is starting with HR and payroll as the initial module, and we'll be getting out this month an RFP for that effort. We're bringing that certainly to the board to award that contract. Leverage external resources, that's captured, and we've kind of talked about that a bit in terms of engineering. We did get a revised outlook from Fitch from stable to positive, maintaining our AA. That's pretty significant for us. And again, that was one of the outcomes of the rate increase and the fiscal stability it provided this district. And streamline the application process for discount programs and leak detection. Nothing to report on that. Objective 4 is outside funding. Largely grants we're talking about. WRDA, we noted, and we'll be talking to the board really about all of our grants, bond funding, and planning Q4 to have the discussion with the board. Again, state and federal grants, we'll be updating the board coming up, and leverage regional partnerships. And that's really ongoing, all the coordination we do with associations and others. Fiscal transparency, objective 5. We completed an online customer tool that's really a nice bill estimator. I believe it's fairly widely utilized by our customers, and it was a nice effort from staff. We're shifting out the district purchasing policy. I doubt I'd let it shift farther than Q1 because we do need to update it. It's an important effort. Quarterly financial summary. So now the board requests are posted on the website. Our audits, we are planning in November to bring to the board our most recent audit. And the proactive communication for grants. So we've done a couple things on this, I think very kind of positive. Signage in various locations acknowledging the funders of that work, like at Lagunitas Creek. And of course, as noted earlier in board comments, we had the event with the grantors on Lagunitas Creek that really went well. And I think it was really a nice opportunity to thank them and let them see the great work and keep the grants presumably flowing. So I'll pause here before I roll into the final goal if there's any comments or questions.
Comments, questions? I think we're all good.
Okay. Organization, culture, and values, recruitment, collateral, a lot of work enhancing our recruitment material to really present the district in the best light, as we're currently on some classifications, like many agencies struggle to get good candidates. Generally, we're doing well, but I think this was helpful. Partnering with local communities and colleges. So we have done some outreach at the Marin City Community Development Career Fair they had. We had a booth, and I understand it was pretty active there. We're also working with Baywork that had been working mostly in the East Bay on the idea of a North Bay chapter to, again, similar kind of bring people into our industry through community colleges and others. And a community outreach plan for every recruitment. The new onboarding and employee training program, as you know, really for the first time, we have a training program coordinator, and the initial effort was updating our new employee orientation. And I think we did provide the board a briefing on that. I'm quite pleased how it's turned out. You know, just an example from like a 2-month, here's all the documents, to a really structured year-long process with specific check-ins from different people and everyone presumably, but the plan is, would have a kind of a peer mentor that would be assigned to help them. So really some very nice enhancements to have folks that come into the organization really feel welcome and supported. Our DEI training has been completed, and that will now be incorporated into training for new employees. Continuing employee recognition and appreciation programs. We've transitioned that now. The different divisions host it, and it's really brought more people into supporting these events and kind of embracing these celebrations. And we also updated the employee retiree program that was really important, I think, to the organization, again, to celebrate folks that have dedicated quite a bit of time to public service here in the district. We've strengthened internal communications with an employee newsletter that's going out kind of quarterly. Again, great feedback on that and appreciation from staff. We, under employee engagement and overall organizational improvement, I think you're aware we developed a broad-based staff committee called Ripple Committee that is very engaged in working on a number of initiatives that are quite opportunistic, I think, long-term for this organization. Workplace safety, super, super important. Brett Pettish, our new safety manager, we brought on a safety consultant to really take a look, to give him that support on our state of our program. I would say we have a good program. Our goal is to have a great program, and it's identified some opportunities for us. The work facilities assessment, we're going to be briefing the board on that, and that's really and we've talked about it a little bit, the different work sites for our employees and where there's opportunities and needs to enhance them. And we'll be having a follow-on discussion with the board on that. And then we do have finally a staffing assessment where we've developed a document that we think the best timing will be, again, kind of part of the budget development process, where we'll be bringing a prioritized list, big picture, just so we have it over time to look at, of where we have resource needs and opportunities, and collectively kind of what do we want to tackle as part of the upcoming budget process. Accessibility, we haven't, but we will be tackling that, updating our ADA compliance. There's some needs both in our website and facilities, and updating those associated documents, as well as there's more and more interest on the disability folks. How did they have an experience in the watershed? So there's a pilot that'll be kicking off soon in the county, Marin County, where a county and a city are getting these devices that allow folks that have wheelchairs to go on to trails like fire roads, and we'll see how that plays out. But it is kind of interesting to watch, and we're supportive, and we'll be part of that effort. Messaging and visual identity, this has really been great. Now our capital projects will have signs that, letting folks know that, your rates are paying for improvements to your system in your neighborhood. And talk about it and give them some sort of perhaps QR code where they can then go and get more details about the project. Data-driven, of course, water efficiency efforts. We've been talking about those and continue to creative storytelling that's ongoing, the work of Adrian and her staff. Engagement with local municipalities hasn't kicked off. We are expecting our first meeting, and this was the idea that was raised by the board, to periodically give updates to other local jurisdictions. So maybe it's just a public comment period, a 5-minute update, but schedule it, something like that. So we are planning to get that going. And then we have objective 3, industry engagement, growth, and leadership. We have been more active on professional development opportunities, giving papers. Most recently, we had a staff engineer give a paper at a statewide conference on dam safety that was well received, and the work we're doing associated with that. And then lastly, objective technology, innovation, process improvements. The intranet, we are making progress on, is it 360? Not 360, yeah. The Microsoft 360 that will kind of enhance a number of things we do, but including building a good modern intranet that's very important for this organization, for folks to be able to access the tools they need to do their work. So that's kind of a behind the scenes, but very critical. Academia partnerships. We worked on this and thought about the different opportunities and did settle. We joined as a pilot, Isle Utilities, as a 1-year pilot. And it's an interesting organization where they look at and vet new technologies and have a database. So we'll at some point next year bring back to the board the value or not that we obtained from it, and recommendations or not to continue. AMI we've talked about, and same with SAP with the RFP coming out. So with that, take any questions on that goal or any of the others. And so kind of broadly, we do need to get a board retreat scheduled, which we'll be working on with a similar plan this coming year in the retreat, which would be a review of the next year's annual report. So staff would come to that meeting in a similar fashion with a proposed set of activities and initiatives for the coming year to get board input and direction on that.
Thank you, Ben. Board discussion. Open it up.
Oh, I'll say it into the microphone. This is great. I mean, really, this level of tracking and accountability has occurred over the past number of years that I've been on the board, and the fact that we keep coming back to it and we show where we've slipped, and be honest about that, and then also the recognition of just the breadth of all the things that are going on. A lot of the things that happen in the background that we wouldn't otherwise see. I think particularly the goal 5, of all the work that we do to really make our workplace a great place for our employees is really commendable, and we wouldn't otherwise talk about it, I think, if we didn't bring it forward here in these meetings. So I think it's just a great work and appreciate it. Thank you.
Matt? Ben, when you were going through this, I was trying to identify things that are directly related to what we're largely known for, which is making sure that people have water coming out of their taps when they turn on their faucet. This is not an operational plan. I think everybody should appreciate that this is everything that's happening on top of the day job, which is making sure that we have safe, reliable water. And we're working on leaks, we're addressing all of the challenges related to that type of that supply. So it's I think for an organization of our size, this is ambitious. It's inspiring to see.
And I just want to say that I and staff were appreciative that the board understands that this is ambitious, and we did by design reach high. And thus not everything is meeting precisely the schedule. And I think that kind of relationship is important because it allows us in this next annual plan to similarly reach high and be ambitious and stretch ourselves as an organization.
Ranjiv, I want to just maybe riff off a little bit what you just said, though, in that this is like in addition to what we do in our day job to deliver water. And I think there's truth in that for sure. But I also would say that this is the stuff that we need to be doing in order to deliver water reliably. I mean, the maintenance work that makes sure that our infrastructure delivers water is an obvious one. But I also think that, like, again, when we want to recognize our employees and make a place where people want to come to work, then we get great employees who do a great job, who then make sure that we have pipes and billing and everything else that delivers water, and even maintaining our watershed. That's the source of our water. So I honestly think that this is all the things that it takes to have the district, in addition to the stuff that people see more plainly when they see somebody out there repairing a pipe that's broken, or or reading meters and things like that, the more obvious stuff. And so I think, again, like, having these report outs is a way of bringing to attention just how complex it is to run a district in all the facets. So again, thank you.
Yeah, great points. Good. Then now, Terry, do we have any public comments on the work plan update?
Yes, we have several. Phil Sauter, Jack, and then 1402. Go ahead, Phil Sauter.
First, I'd like to thank Ben for listing demand management as goal number 1 in achieving a reliable water supply. Most industry experts believe it's one of the least expensive options for increasing supply, and it also lets us preserve the quality of our drinking water by staying within our watershed with supplemental supply from Sonoma. It helps us to avoid dependence on desalinated water or treated wastewater for potable uses. It avoids expensive capital projects that raise rates for the average user, so that relatively few customers can irrigate lawns with potable water. And it can prevent the flooding of homes and businesses. And it helps us prepare all of our users for a drought that may show up at any time. The one downside has been our nagging worry that customers who have conserved water for the past several years will start backtracking and return to the wasteful use of potable water, especially on lawns and other thirsty outdoor landscaping. But while staff and some board members at last month's operations committee expressed their concerns about losing the ground we've gained over many years, it's good to remember that we have actual data that can help put some of these worries to rest. As Craig demonstrated in his analysis of 7 years of AMI data, we have information that can tell us how customers, both AMI and non-AMI customers, achieve substantial 10 to 18% savings we saw over the last 7 years. We can find out whether the savings happened indoors or outdoors, and perhaps a measurable split between the two. We have neighborhoods in Corte Madera that we can go walk to discover what customers have done to reduce their water use between 10 and 17%. And we can look at landscaping and perhaps see how AMI users achieve 7% more savings than non-AMI users. This data is what Director Schmidt refers to as decision-making data, and can give us the comfort we need to believe the trends we're seeing. It could also help us overcome concerns that we don't know how to motivate heavy outdoor water users by giving us a knowledge-based plan that tells us how customers have used this new AMI information to make their own changes in water use. I'm really grateful to see staff dig into this data. I think that turning Craig loose on the AMI and control group data we have will be a big step toward designing more impactful demand management programs, and will help increase our confidence that we can change behavior and rely on the changes. By studying this information first, we can make better decisions about the need for and scope of other water supply options, and it will definitely be useful for for financial planning and any future rate adjustments. I did want to make a comment on a comment that was made earlier about tracking to the majority of users in the decisions that the board makes. And I'd like to ask the board to consider the number of people affected by agriculture and the number of people affected by lawns,
Thank you.
especially since there's an alternative recycled water for lawns. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Jack, and then 1402, please.
In my prior meeting with Ben Hornstein, an interesting debatable subject came up, which is, can conservation actually be considered an official way to mitigate drought, or is human behavior really just not something we can factor into how robust our water supply is? This is a very interesting topic because, in theory, one could say if humans fundamentally change their behavior, then the number of acre feet of water required to provide MMWD's constituents with 1 year of water would change, and the calculated determination that our reservoirs hold 2 years of water is based on an idea that there is a fixed amount of water that our constituency needs and uses. And while in theory what he said is true, you can never truly rely on human behavior, any calculated supply is assuming humans are going to behave some certain way, and some specific number of CCFs of water per billing cycle is the amount the average person's using. And I think this needs discussion, and at some point it may be worthwhile determining that, given people have fundamentally decided, particularly I've noticed in Division 2, that lawns are not essential for their property, the fact they've made that determination reduces the amount of water the average person's going to use every year, and therefore it may be worthwhile reassessing how many years of water all of our dams supply if they're completely full.
Thank you. 1402, then Marilyn Price.
James Holmes. My comment relates to agenda page 45, objective 2, augment existing water supply. Item A is short-term actions, and sub-item A5 is design, build Phoenix to Bon Tempe. The milestone for that project is Q3, which has passed. The budget space is totally blank. Why? What happened? How can a project that was brought to the board months ago have a blank budget? And more broadly, why has this project disappeared into the mist seemingly? It relates directly to what the voters have said is a key concern, especially in light of the boosted rates and the need for action and the likelihood of possibly less rain. I would hate to think that the district was intimidated by the same small group that opposes almost all supply projects on conjectural environmental grounds, as IJ columnist Spotswood says. The district wasn't intimidated by the plausible environmental objections to the highly controversial plan to open trails to bikers, and you risked a lawsuit there, which actually did happen. Surely implementing reasonable short-term projects to increase supply warrants at least as much institutional gumption and determination and resolve as allowing access for bikers. And surely, too, the staff and its consultants and contractors can implement 2 low-hanging fruit, short-term supply projects at one time. Please, let's get Phoenix off the ground. Thank you.
Thank you. Marilyn Price, please.
Yeah, let's see, I'll just say it.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Hold on, Ms. Price.
I was just wondering if we could follow up with, some information to the last speaker separately, not now, but if we could just follow up on that one. Thanks. Sorry, Terry.
No worries, I apologize. Ms. Price, please.
Oh, yes, thank you. Well, and I'll just say it's so nice to attend your meetings and gain a sense of the enormous work you are doing to deliver water to all of us. I love to hear Phil say that most industry experts mention demand management as one of the least expensive options for increasing water supply. I bike my neighborhood hills in Mill Valley every day for exercise. Before the last drought, I would see people watering their yards continually in the summer and excess water running down the street. Since the drought, I rarely see people watering their yards. My supposition, without studying any data, is that this taught them that their plants survived without as much water and that they can now save both money and our precious water resources by watering less. I feel confident that as MMWD continues to explore changing behavior of our residents with regard to water, that lots more water can be saved. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no further speakers.
Okay, then thanks again, Ben, for the update, and we'll move on to a review of future board and committee meetings.
Good evening. The remainder of this week, we'll have our committee meetings, Watershed Committee on Thursday at 9:30, and the Operations Committee meeting Friday at 9:30. Next week, we'll have our Finance and Administration Committee meeting, which is Thursday, October 24th. Our next regular board meeting will be on Wednesday, November 6th. And remember, we moved the time because of the elections on November 5th. External meetings, the 3 external meetings that I'm aware of are Friday, November 1st, to the North Bay Watershed Association Board meeting, the Sonoma Water Advisory Committee / Technical Advisory Committee on Monday, November 4th, and then the Lagunitas Technical Advisory Committee meeting Friday, November 22nd.
Thank you, Terry. And with that, the Marin Water Board of Directors meeting of October 15th, 2024 is adjourned.
Thank you.